What's up everybody, welcome back to another video here on the Simply Car Things YouTube channel. Now before we dive into today's topic, if you guys could go ahead and smash the thumbs up button on this video as well as subscribe to my channel down below if you are new here. I would appreciate the support a ton, and it definitely helps to spread awareness about the content that I create and potentially help anybody else that's interested in the same sort of content. So with all that being said, let's dive right into the BMW M5 F10 generation, comparing it to the F90, and pretty much just talking about how big of a step up really is the F90 from the F10, and is it worth potentially upgrading or getting into if you are a potential buyer. Recently, I had the opportunity to spend pretty much a whole day with a 2020 F90 M5 competition. And if you guys haven't seen the review on my channel, I'll go ahead and throw a card up right here at the top of the screen. You guys can click on that and see my in-depth real-time driving impressions and overall review of that car. Overall, I was absolutely blown away by not only the performance, but just the all-around package of that car. In fact, there were so many times throughout the video that I basically said, this car is literally like a jack of all trades. And while it's not a full-blown sports car, in terms of everything that it offers, the executive sedan package with insane performance, pretty good handling considering its relatively large size, and all the creature comforts, luxury, and amenities that the car offered, it's damn near perfect. And those are literally my words that I had in the review towards the end, because I was just so impressed by the car overall. But once I returned the car back to the owner and I came back home, I started doing some digging and just some deep thinking about the car, and I started looking into the F10 M5 a little bit more. And the last time that I had been in any F10 M5 was at least 3, almost 4 years ago. So it's been quite a while since I've, touched base with that specific BMW. And I almost forgot how cheap these things have gotten in the used market. Now keep in mind, at the current time of this video, the used car market is extremely inflated, and the price of used cars, I've talked about this, I've touched on it over and over, they are very expensive. I mean, that's no secret at this point. But even in this current wildly inflated market, BMW F10 M5s are still pretty cheap. You could definitely get a clean early year model like a 2013 or 2014 for the low to mid $30,000 range. And high mileage examples are going for mid to high $20,000, which is, when you're looking at what the F10 M5 offers in terms of its overall package for that kind of money, it's pretty hard to look over that and just pretend like it doesn't exist. So I wanted to touch on some of the differences between the F90 and the F10. Now, here's the thing. The F90 M5 in so many ways is just a very thorough revision of the F10, and I think that's what most people were expecting with this current generation of M5, and that's exactly what BMW delivered. For starters, it pretty much uses the same engine, which is the S63 TU. Now, the code name for the engine is slightly different because the current version of the S63 in the F90 M5 competition has a fair amount of revisions as compared to the version that's used in the F10 M5. The one in the F90 has larger turbos, the injectors are more efficient, the fuel output and pressure is a little bit higher for the direct injection system. The cross-flow intake manifold has also been revised for increased efficiency as well, and they've sort of like tampered with the exhaust pulses, I believe, as well. I believe it also has new pistons, rods, and a crankshaft, but in terms of the actual displacement of the engine, the bore, stroke, and the overall design, the firing order, just everything is still the same. It's still that same old twin turbo V8 that is a hot V setup. You have the turbos that sit within the V of the engine. I think the biggest, most notable change with the F90 is the fact that it is now equipped with XDrive. And XDrive is standard, the M5 is now all-wheel drive, and BMW has now also offered the ability to decouple the drivetrain from the front axle if you want to drive the car solely in a rear-wheel drive fashion, which is pretty damn cool. The other big difference to note is that the 6-speed manual is no longer offered in the F90. Now, with the F10s, it's pretty damn rare to find one in a 6-speed to begin with, but BMW did offer that, as an option that you could spec with from the factory if you were ordering one brand new. And with the F90, that is no longer a thing. In fact, they also dumped the dual clutch gearbox, that 7-speed unit made by Getrag, which was pretty damn awesome, and they replaced it in favor of a ZF8 automatic unit. Now, I think the reason for this implementation was mainly due to cost cutting, and obviously implementing the ZF8 with BMW's infamous XDrive is already something that BMW has a lot of experience in. It's something that they can easily, just like Legos, they can sort of carry over these parts between models. Obviously with the G80, they've done that, and the G82, and then even the non-M counterparts that use the ZF8 paired with XDrive. It's just from a cost perspective, it just makes a lot of sense, as opposed to BMW just going out and developing and producing, a brand new dual clutch for this car. It just wasn't worth it. And surprisingly enough, given the fact that the car has all these new features, it has a heavier gearbox, it has a heavier drivetrain, all-wheel drive system, the curb weight is actually pretty much identical to the F10, maybe a little bit heavier, maybe a little bit lighter actually, depending on the specification of F90 that you have. And part of the reason for that is because the F90 M5 now comes standard with a carbon fiber roof, lowers the center of gravity, obviously reduces a lot of weight on the top end of the car. There's a lot of aluminum body panels and tons of aluminum suspension components as well. And overall, when I was driving the car, I was so impressed with how it handled. It didn't feel like a boat. In fact, the torsional rigidity of the chassis and the way that the damper tuning was set up was actually so lively. The car was almost playful to an extent in the corners, and that was something that I really, really enjoyed. It did not feel like a 4,300 pound car, I can promise you that. Don't get me wrong, as I stated in the review, it didn't feel like a nimble M2 or an M4, but at the same time, considering everything on a relative scale, I was very impressed by the handling of the car. Now, all in all, this begs the question, how big of a step up is the F90 truly from the F10? And in my opinion, it is a huge step up. Obviously, there is zero traction issues with this generation because of that XDrive system. The ZF8 shifts really quick, and one actually really nice benefit of it as compared to the DCT is that it doesn't like to sort of like buck the rear end when it shifts. It's very smooth, it's very seamless, and you just kind of stay right in the meat of the power band, and every time you blast through a new gear, it does not affect the power delivery of the car in the way that that power is sent to all four wheels or even the rear wheels. The acceleration is truly staggering. I mean, the S63 engine is no joke. It pretty much puts down supercar performance numbers, 617 horsepower, about 553 pound-feet of torque, and with a good launch, you're looking at about 3 seconds flat from 0 to 60. So, I mean, these numbers are literally no joke, and if you told somebody that a BMW executive sedan was going to be putting down times like that, times that matched super high-end exotic cars, I mean, I think a lot of people would just simply look at you and laugh. And I think that's truly, a testament to how fast that car really is. The only downfall, in my opinion, about the F90 is the fact that it is still pretty damn expensive. I mean, the one that I drove, again, was a 2020 M5 Comp. It had about 10,000 miles on it. In a car like that, you're looking at roughly 100K in the used market, a 6-figure price tag, which, in my opinion, is justified. Like, what you are getting in that package is truly worthy of a 6-figure car. But at the same time, when you look at the F10 in the used market, being literally a third of that price, maybe a little more if you really want a clean, tasteful example, man, it's like tough to justify the F90 when the F10 is so damn cheap. Now, the F10 M5, in my opinion, does not handle nearly as well as the F90. It feels much more boat-like. The interior is much more bare bones and subdued, and obviously it doesn't have nearly the entire suite of driving features and technology and the super advanced iDrive and all that, but it still offers enough of a luxury package that anybody that's getting in the car is going to feel comfortable and they're going to enjoy. You still get the same powertrain of that S63 TU, and while it's not the current most latest iteration of that engine, it is still damn potent. And if you want to modify the car, downpipes, tune, ethanol, meth injection, whatever the case is, suspension, these cars can pretty much be made just as quick. The downfall with them is the fact that they are only rear-wheel drive. And some people, including myself, usually really prefer rear-wheel drive cars. But I think with a car like the M5, a big body executive sedan, I think the all-wheel drive definitely makes more sense for a car like that. Nobody is buying it for it to be an extremely playful sports car. Like, at the end of the day, this is a luxury business sedan that people are going to be hauling their family. They're going to be driving on the freeway a bunch. They just want something that's mainly fast in a straight line. Sure, the great handling is a plus, but with the F10, obviously, putting the power down is a big issue, and that is definitely something that those cars struggle with significantly. The DCT also is very, very quick, and it's very snappy, and in my opinion, is an amazing transmission. It also sounds amazing when you're upshifting and downshifting if you have a proper exhaust system. The only thing, in my opinion, that is a little bit of a a hindrance with the DCT is the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, it can sort of buck the car a little bit. It can almost hamper it. It actually shifts so hard that it can kind of like upset the back end, and if you're not driving with traction control completely off, you know, that'll actually slow you down in terms of the overall acceleration. In my opinion, both of these cars are absolutely amazing, the F10 and the F90. In my opinion, the way I see it, the F90 M5 is a dramatic step up from the F10. Just again, in terms of its overall package and what it is providing as a car, the F90 is simply amazing, and I think in a few years' time when these cars depreciate more, I think truly that's the best time to hop on them. Right now they're still too expensive, and with the current state of the used market, they've kind of gone back up in price a little bit, as with the F10s, but the F10s are nowhere near in that same ballpark of like 80 to 90 to even six-figure price tags. And they're, you know, F10s are sitting more so in the $30,000 to $40,000 price range, which I think for that money is a lot of car if you want a big body sedan. You can haul your family in, you can daily drive, and you can go very, very fast with. If you have an F10 now, enjoy it. I think they're phenomenal cars. I would really like to review one, and you know, it's been a while since I have been in one, and definitely make some more accurate and real-time comparisons and an overall review on that car. But in the meantime, that is my personal take on the F90 and F10 debate. I think obviously the F90 is the better car. Nobody's gonna, you know, debate that. But right now, I think in this current market, unless if you're like rich and you can just afford to go out and buy an F90, the F10 is the better buy. So I hope that comparison made a lot of sense for you guys, and I truly appreciate you all tuning into this video. I hope I was able to provide some value as well with the content that I made for this specific topic. And if you guys could go ahead and smash the thumbs up button as well as subscribe to the channel down below, that would mean a lot to me, guys. I will catch you all in the next one. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.